All right, presentation on joint movements on different planes. So we'll start with sagittal motion, flexion of the glenohumeral joint shoulder, extension, back that way, abduction, hand away from the midline, adduction, opposite motion in towards the midline. We're going to do a transverse on the transverse motion of an external rotation, hand out away using the rotator cuff, and then a transverse internal rotation, and then transverse abduction, transverse adduction. Shoulder girdle, we're going to elevate the scapula and then depress the scapula. That is on the coronal plane of motion. We're going to go abduction of the scapula away from the midline of the body and adduction of the scapula in towards the middle of the body. And then we're going to go upward spiral circumduction of the scapula and then de-elevation of the scapula. Hip movement, we're going to go hip flexion, that's also knee extension, and then hip extension, kicking back, and that motion there. Abduction, away from the midline, transverse motion, and then adduction, back to the midline. That would be the same type of motion, abduction and adduction. I'm just going to tilt the camera down a bit to see my knees. So we can circle the knees. Let's go like this. I'm going to circle the knees with an external rotation this way and an internal rotation this way. So external, internal. Again, knee flexion this way, knee extension that way, lumbar. We're going to go flexion, lumbar spine, and then extension, lumbar motion. And then that's a sagittal motion back and forth, coronal lateral flexion, and then transverse lumbar rotation.